Be strong. You never know who you are inspiring. Unknown. On today's episode, I wrap up my conversations with Jennifer, Monica, and Deidre. They share what they hope their kiddos take away from their journey as a mompreneur and leave us with some sound advice for those following in their mompreneur footsteps. Welcome to the Stitched for Success podcast, where we are teaching business and life lessons that will help you launch, grow, or scale your creative business. I am Monica Allen, and I'm a wife, mom, daughter, entrepreneur, author, friend, lifelong learner, and host of this podcast. For over 8 years, I was stuck in corporate and dreamt of escaping. Creating a side hustle with just $700 and having taken the leap over 15 years ago, we have since grown multiple six-figure and seven-figure brands. Being an entrepreneur for over 18 years has afforded me many successes and a few failures. I want to share those with you so you can grow and be successful in your business. On last week's episode, I spoke with Jennifer Grayer, formerly of Lollibop Sweet Shop, Deidre Bembry, aka the Insurance Lady, a State Farm agent for 12 years, and Monica Van Landingham, a serial entrepreneur and current owner of a social media strategy firm in Nashville called Veer Media. These ladies were generous enough to share their time with me and answer questions in regards to being an entrepreneur and mother. Take a listen. We know that our kids watch everything that we do. What would you like for your kids to learn from you being an entrepreneur or business owner?
What I wanted was for my daughter to see me using my gifts and talents to create something that is awesome and that would make people happy and smile. It just makes it seem like it's purpose driven. If she knows that I am, super creative and, like I host the best tea parties and she gets to watch me do that at work and I make money from it and other people really like it and it makes them smile, and she's going to be like, well, that's probably what I'm here for. Like, let me try to identify what areas I'm really good at and see how I can turn that into a business or a purpose. And because, it's all about planting seeds, right? And I know we just talked about this. So you're planting seeds with, your gifts and talents. And so along the way, you're impacting people. And I liked for her to see that. I liked for her to see that the gifts that I had, which was like my creativity, and then some of my talents, which were like hosting birthday parties and making cakes and, doing artsy craftsy type things for people that made them happy and inspired them to want to do, other things in their lives too. Like I wanted her to take away from that, like, oh, wow. Okay. So we all impact each other and it can either be in the best way or it can be in a really bad way. And Mama used her gifts to impact people in a really good way. So I want to do that too.
I really want them to understand the importance of work ethic, number one, and that nothing in this world is just going to be given to you, handed to you, laid out and waiting for you. I feel like as moms, what we're doing as entrepreneurs is creating the table for our kids to come to, should they choose to follow in our path. But in the event that they don't, and they find themselves charting their way in corporate America, I hope that they learn to be innovative, that they learn to go the extra mile, that they learn to think outside of the box, because those are the things that I find that we do every single day, and I hope that they're seeing that.
Yeah.
Well, they've already done it. They've already shown me like it's in their blood. And well, for example, when Jacob and Max, we were living in Florida till 2012. We moved to Franklin, Tennessee, which is 20 minutes south of Nashville. We moved here in 2012. And the boys had discovered this Japanese wooden skill toy called a kendama. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called a kendama, Kendama. And I can send you a little bit of, if you want it, just out of curiosity. One of our neighbors had one. And Max, my 19-year-old now, was really like into it. And he's my kid with ADHD. He had sensory issues. It was just the most perfect little like fidget toy almost, except it's a ball and a cup and it has all these different ways. It's from the early 1700s. It's a Japanese wooden skill toy. And Jacob was into it too. And they got very obsessed very fast. So the boys were very into it. And I was not about this retail life, paying retail for everything. And like, they were all different places you would get them from, like all these different websites. And I wasn't opposed to it as much as that I was like, I already had my website. I had already, gone past like my Facebook business, and I was, already into my social media jobs when they discovered it. And I said, let's get through the summer, and then I will reach out to these different companies. One was in Colorado, one was in Atlanta, and one was in Minnesota. I said, let me reach out and see if we can possibly sell them on my Monica's Fantabulous Fashions. Like at the time, I'm like, we'll just make a page for you guys on my website for my kids to have their own little business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the boys had started such a trend. And so many of their friends, from the boys going around, because Jacob was a big athlete, football all the time, and Max was big into hip hop dance at a dance studio. And like, they literally were trendsetters. And so I was like, let's go. So we ordered several cases from different ones. I started a completely separate website. I let the boys name the business. It's called All Out Domination, Kadama, DAMA. So not damnation and not domination, but domination. I let them design a logo. And we literally built a business, and it's still online, and we still sell Kadamas to this day. I mean, they're not as involved as they used to be, but it was literally the boys' business. We created a pro team because I'm if you didn't know this about me, I'm an includer, not an excluder. And they wanted to have a pro team because it was their business. And I said, we can have a pro team and we can allow X amount of members, but we're going to do some community service. So we would go to the children's hospital and they would do demonstrations. We would go to the Boys and Girls Club locally. I made them work. They were going to have this pro team I was going to make. So that was really cool. And that was great for the middle school years. I was with them a lot. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I was with them. I was taking them to competitions. They were always at my house because all they did was stand around and try to make video edits. And thinking back, it was pretty savvy of me because I had my boys I was the Kadama mama. And I was literally running this business. We would have like jam sessions locally, and we would take a whole table and set up their Kandamas. They would make commissions. I mean, it was cool and it was fun. So when you ask me about my kids and their entrepreneurial spirit, there's that. My daughter's a hustler. And long story short, they both, at the high school that my daughter's at, and then my son Jacob was at, now he's in college, I've had a very close relationship with the marketing teacher. They all went through the rigors of DECA and marketing 1, marketing 2. And I've gone and spoken to their class because she figured out pretty quickly that I was a marketer. You know what I mean? So it's been very integral to see their journey. And they've always known this about me. And they always come to me with everything when it comes to marketing, when it comes to making money, about starting businesses, business questions, like for their future, especially the boys who are in college. Like, they both started out with business majors and now they're going in different directions, but they always have that underline and they're getting a minor in business. And so for them, I want them to, no risk, no reward is what I want them to realize.
For me, I want my kiddos to know that they have options. If they want to work for a company, they can do that. But if they have dreams of running their own business or writing or producing a movie or TV show, they can do that too. I want them to know that they can truly do anything they put their minds to and are willing to do the hard work to achieve. This podcast episode is brought to you by Zeus's Closet. Zeus's Closet is one of our companies. We like to say we're like a tattoo shop for your clothes. We provide custom decorated apparel and promotional products for businesses, the movie, TV industry, and for clothing brands. We have helped many people launch their clothing brands over the past few years. If you have a clothing brand or an idea for a brand, we have a 30-point checklist on our website to help you get your clothing brand started. The checklist is really helpful to any business owner getting started. It is the checklist I could have used 18 years ago. You can find it at zeus'scloset.com/checklist. What piece of advice would you give to a new mompreneur, either who already has kids and decided to start a business, or already has a business and just had a baby or is expecting a baby?
Wow. And I've done both, as you know. And I would just say to give your kids a realistic expectation early on, because they may have peers, relatives, or their circle that has traditional parents, or they may have traditional parents that go in. Not to say they don't have demanding occupations. It's just that if they're an employee of somewhere, it cuts off at some point, or maybe they have peers who have parents that work in the home, and that's totally different. And I think it's really important to give children a sense of what their reality is early on. So in their minds, they don't as they say, get it twisted because I don't even know another way to say it. Like, so they don't get it twisted and be measuring you by the expectation of another household. And then they have this inherent disappointment that really is misplaced because they're not comparing apples to apples. And so I think that is super important for working moms and especially mompreneurs, is to really give that reality in doses and honestly, and show them the pros as well as, you know, the downsides, you know, so they can really kind of, as they can in their own capacity, whatever that may be, kind of roll with those ebbs and flows when their expectations are managed. And I would have done that sooner rather than trying to auto correct it on the backside.
If you already have kids, depending on their age, right, you can sit down and talk to your kids and kind of set the expectation as to how life is going to be a little bit different. So depending on how your kids can comprehend that, I would say, you know, always communicate with them because they're super smart, right? And they want to know how they can help. So if you give them a plan on how they can help in the new business, like that'll make the transition a little smoother. I would say if you are an entrepreneur, you already have your business set up and you have become a new mom since you've opened up your business, I think that you probably have to kind of set some boundaries. So I think you have to look at how your business is run today versus how you want it to be run once your child gets here, and you have to start making moves towards that. For example, if you own a shop, for example, let's say like a bakery, you know, because why not? Let's say you own a bakery and you are working in that bakery for 10 to 11, 12 hours a day, just creating all these wonderful confections. And you are going to try to make time to make a baby, to have a baby. Then maybe you set your expectations to say, well, you know what? Once baby gets here, I only want to work for 5 or 6 hours a day. Well, then you need to come up with a plan to figure out how you can back out 5 of those hours, right? So is it going to be hiring more staff, or is it going to be taking less orders? Are you going to be cutting days, or, you know, just however you need to do to arrange your life on how you want it to see go? It may not always go exactly as you planned it, but I think if you kind of have the groundwork and a plan for it and walk towards that goal, then it'll be easier to meet it once your new baby gets here. But one other thing I wanted to add to the mompreneur who is already a business owner and thinking about, you know, becoming a mom, like I would say everything is always better when you have a supportive partner, regardless of what state your relationship is. Like if your child is all for that kid and can make sure that that kid is taken care of in those times when you can't, then that's going to give you a whole lot of peace of mind too. You just need to be able to work without having to worry about your child.
Right.
That's key, because you cannot be productive if you are concerned about your child's well-being. So you always want to make sure that you have a good support system or a really good partner.
That's a very good point. Very good point.
There's lots of advice. Well, first and foremost, just as mom advice that goes across the board that'll translate into business is trust your gut. When I first had my first child, Jacob, I really didn't have a lot of mom friends. I had my parents, and they're a different generation. And although my parents were there all the time and amazing and supportive, their advice wasn't always the right advice. I was born in 1972. So, you know, at that time, the doctors were telling moms that formula was better. So we were all formula fed. And so I breastfed my son, Jacob, and he was ginormous. And I just remember my parents being like, do you think you're breastfeeding him too much? And you can't overfeed a breastfed baby. They literally regulate their stomach content. And not everybody can do it. And it's not for everybody. This is my journey and my story. But my parents, like, not that they meant to, but they're like, because he was born 6 pounds, 10 ounces. In a month, he was 12 pounds. At 3 months, he was 20 pounds. I mean, my pediatrician said I should have been the wet nurse to a queen, to royalty, because, you know, I could feed a small country with my breast milk. That's a whole nother conversation. But I never, you know, like, and they were kind of getting in my head about it. And luckily there was like a group at the hospital. It wasn't like La Leche or anything like that. It was just like literally people who gave birth at that hospital. They met once every 3 weeks or something, who breastfed, who gave, you know, it was like a little mommy group. And it was like my first group of mom friends, and it helped me. And and that has just gone with me all the way through life about trusting my gut. Like, of course you have to ask the questions. Of course you have to inquire about things parenting wise, business wise, marriage wise, friend wise, all the wises. But at the end of the day, I believe, trust your gut, go with your knee jerk, do your due diligence, but really go back to what your initial thought was, because 9 times out of 10, you were right. So I think trust your gut would be my biggest piece of advice, even to mompreneurs. So like with mompreneurs, if you have a newborn baby or a young child and you have to do something from home, or you're doing something in, something where you have to go to places, just work it out, worked out to have a mommy's helper with you, like someone who could support you, your mom, like you call in all your favors. You're building your dreams, because some moms are not going to be the best version of a mom if they are not working, if they're not, we're all hardwired differently. And for me, it wasn't a calling to work as it was a calling to connect when I started my indoor play facilities. I wanted my kids to be able to be around other kids and socialized, but I didn't want anybody else taking care of them. I didn't want anybody else changing their diapers and teaching them things and being there for their first anythings. So that was a great balance for me. But, some people aren't going to be the best version of themselves if they're not filling those baskets. And if you feel this pull, like I've got to do something, or I really want to start this business, or I already have this business, am I going to have to give it up? Call in your favors, get your mom to help out, get your friends to hire someone. If you can only hire a nanny for 4 hours a week at $25 an hour, then those 4 hours a week at $25 an hour is when you put into your work. And then the housework will come in when husband gets home, because you both, taking care of a baby the child is a full-time job. And then if those hours you're paying a nanny so you can do the new work for the business, then when that day is over and the baby's in the bath and the baby's been bathed and been fed, that's when you fold the laundry. That's when the house gets cleaned. And that's when and I feel like more so today than a long time ago, those duties are shared between husbands and wives, especially since COVID. I've been fortunate that my husband has always done at least, he just has. It was just very natural for him. And I know he's a rarity, but it's changing. It's switching. So those are the two things. Ask for the help. Say yes. Say yes. Say no. Of course, you got to learn to say no, but that's a whole other conversation. But say yes when people want to bring you food. Say yes when people want to help you. If you want to grow and evolve and change and have all of the things, have the business, have all of that, then say yes when people want to offer to help you. Say yes.
Oh my gosh, such wonderful advice from Deidre, Jennifer, and Monica. I wish I would have had someone tell me these things before I had my daughter 11 years ago. And I just want to summarize their pieces of advice really quickly. Number 1, trust your gut. Number 2, set boundaries. Number 3, say yes. I had a really hard time with this one. When I had my first child, I would not say yes to anything. I was just kind of stubborn. People offered to bring me food and offered to do this and that. I'm like, oh no, I'm fine. But I should have said yes. I learned that because the second kid came along and I said yes to meals and to whatever help people were willing to give me. So say yes. 4, establish a good support system. This is so important. Grandparents, friends. And you want to make sure, of course, people are vetted, you know them, that type of thing, but you do want to have a good support system. 5, decide what is important to you. I decided early on that me picking up my kids from school or my husband picking up the kids from school was really important. So in order to do that, though, we had to hire people to make sure that our store was covered and people were in the office to make sure that customers and clients were served properly. But I wanted to be the person picking up the kids from school so I knew what type of day they had and I could feel those emotions and could tell if something wasn't quite right. That was really important to me. And lastly, give realistic expectations. My kids are at an age now where I can really talk to them about what's going on in our business, if we're going through a busy season, and I can set realistic expectations with them in that we're going to have dinners late, or I'm going to get home later, or Ethan's going to get home later. But I love the advice that came across from these ladies, and it is just so, so true. Truly invaluable advice. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm grateful that you took the time to listen. Next week, we kick off our marketing series. We will talk about social media, email marketing, and copywriting. This is important stuff because it can make a big difference in your company's success. So be sure to check it out. Please follow me on Instagram at Stitched for Success or join the Stitched for Success Facebook group. I am also on Clubhouse. I have a recurring room that provides you with the latest and greatest things going on in the world of social media each Thursday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you're not on Clubhouse or would like access to this room, send me a direct message on Instagram and I will send you a link. I also co-mod some pop-up rooms, so follow me on Instagram to stay in the know on those rooms as well. If you are already subscribed to this podcast, thank you so much for being a consistent supporter. If not, please subscribe and take a minute to share the podcast with a friend or family member. The more we know, the better our businesses will be for the longer term. Would also love it if you would take a quick moment to rate the podcast. You can do this on Apple as well as in Audible. Thanks again for tuning in. Have a great one.